How is it Thursday? Yes.
How did we lose Erwin in 2 seconds? Like, this boy is wild.
Nanosecond.
This boy is wild. Anyway. Oh, we're back. We were talking about voting and all that good jazz, but we can continue the conversation or talk about something else. I think we've started something on mental health, and that's important. And I think everyone here brings up pretty valid points when it comes to dealing with mental health. And I think me personally, coming from a perspective as a Black woman who's seen generations of people who don't exercise their mental health. For me personally, finding ways outside of just relying on other people to fix that for me has been the most important for me personally. And that's not downplaying anyone else's experiences. It's just my journey is to always dig deep into myself and understand my own personal feelings. And having someone who, and I'm just talking, but having a Black woman as a therapist provided a lot of clarity for me and a lot of understanding when it came to, I was seeking a couples therapist, and basically she kind of solidified my own feelings for me, something that I already knew deep down what the answers were and how to get to it. I just didn't want to believe it. And so there was a moment for me personally where I'm just like, when are you going to start trusting your own intuition, listening to your own body, listening to your own like thoughts and feelings and exercising those healthy or the best way that you can. And so that's where I'm just kind of my output is on it. And again, like I feel like I'm built to kind of be a wall to help see things through. That's always what I feel like one of my greatest qualities are. And I just seek that every day, whether I'm talking to like friends, loved ones, colleagues. I find therapy, or I find a lot of conversations therapeutic in its own way. So if you can't afford a therapist, and that's the reality of being in this
American.
system, yeah, being in a system, if you can't afford it, I do press you to start looking inwards, finding other groups, having, more meaningful conversations that aren't just negatively led, and start rebuilding and trusting your own self.
Yeah, I think what you said, part of your sentence triggered me. I think you said something about like, what serves you and find people who are going to be good for you. And something that I think I've been traveling down and understanding about being an adult is that while, relationships don't have to serve you, like friendships don't have to serve you anymore. And I've learned that the hard way. I've learned that through a lot of reflection. Like you really do not have to, like when, all these memes out here saying like, don't hold on to relationships that don't serve you. Like that also means friendships that don't serve you too. And I think that a lot of us are seeing during this time that there are friendships that do not serve us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's super important to not hang on to that stuff. And, when you're younger, you feel like, I have 15, 20 friends and I have all the friends in the world. Like when you're older, I'm just like, I got like 4 friends and I'm solid. Like anything else would be exhausting,
Yeah.
In doing what serves you, like do what serves you. And you do not have to hold on to friendships that you thought were going to last a lifetime and are just, some things naturally run their course.
And honestly, like going back to it is like listening to yourself. If your job doesn't serve you, if your, relationship doesn't serve you, there's only so much of an ass beating that you can take being a person of color and feel like you have to fight the good fight. There's easier ways out. And I'm learning that, you know what I mean? Like I preach it a lot to my loved ones, but looking inwardly and accepting that and doing what you can do and nothing more is sometimes just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we've had that conversation a lot, JoJo, about
we do
all the time.
all the
Lindsay,
time.
you
Yeah.
too. God, I miss you.
Yeah.
I miss y'all.
I miss you.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm interested again because you brought it up. And I think, again, it's like, even though we're all people of color, I feel like for women, it's a lot easier to deal with, you know, our own health issues, acknowledging our hurt, our feelings. For men, it's a lot different. And, you know, even with my boyfriend, like we're trying to uncover a lot of his emotions that he swears isn't there, but is.
100%.
And, you know what I mean? Like, how is that for you?
Yeah, well, I think I'm kind of a special case just because have you guys taken like that Myers-Briggs test before? Like the
Yes.
4 different letters, yeah. So I'm an INFP, and pretty much what that means is like I'm quiet and sensitive. That's like the gist of it. So as like a dude, I think I'm pretty unique case in the sense that I lean into my emotions a lot. Not in like a toxic way or anything, but just like I'm very cognizant of the way I'm feeling and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. So I think for me, it's been kind of just a natural progression. But I do see your point where just socially, like as men, we get told to like suppress our feelings a lot. And that's why there's this thing called toxic masculinity, is because
Yes.
a lot of the shit that we deal with, we're just told, whatever, suck it up, or you'll get through it, fucking rub some dirt in it and then get through your day, and just like this, it's just like not stigma, but this socially held stereotype of what a man should be, right? A man should be in a relationship, the rock. A man in the family should be kind of the mainstay, the staple of the house to hold everything together. So there's so much pressure, and there's this she's almost like a philosopher or thinker from the UK. I'm going to butcher her name, so I won't even try to say it. But she talks about masculinity in the sense that these pressures on society are kind of like, how should I put it? It's almost like men are victims of this too, because we have this pressure to be this, and that we don't even realize it. It's just very subconscious, So that's why I think personally, if you're a man, you need a fucking therapist. Like that's kind of just like,
I'm gonna tell you, sorry, Eric, but I saw this happening with my son yesterday. So my son has he's 5 years old, right? So super young, and he will say his favorite color changes every week, but it's often pink. And my husband and I have never told him like that's not a boy's color. And we've always been like, my husband will be like, "Do you think that means something?" And I'm like, "Stop, stupid! Don't go there." Like, no. I'm like, don't put on him what has been put on you. I said, let him be him, right? But yesterday he's outside playing with his friend who's a neighbor, and so we've been quarantined with him for months. And they're fighting over water guns. One of the other neighbors bought water guns just to fight with the kids, okay? Because we've all been in this courtyard for months together. And there's an orange one and a pink one, and they get into a fight about the fact that neither one of them wanted the pink gun. And I was devastated. And I said, "Liev, can you please like double check, like what is going on? Why are you guys arguing?" And he goes, "Well, I really like orange, Mom." And I was like, "But you also really like pink." But I had already heard the other little boy said, "Well, pink is for girls, blah, 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 blah." So even though we have like tried to shield him from it for so long,
society,
that one moment, now it's going to be like so much work for me to be like, "Please wear you see this pink sweater that's back there? He wears it all the time. That's mine." He wears it all the time. I'll be like, "You wear pink, boy. I don't care."
That's adorable. I love that.
Yes.
Do it. Cause no, I don't. I tell my husband, like, we have to be hyper aware of like our own, we've talked a lot about like what our own biases are and what we bring to the table. And we have to be aware of what those are so that we can sort of dissect them for ourselves and for our kids, and not impose on the future generations around us of like, hey, maybe this isn't really what I was, isn't right, or what I was taught isn't right, right? Like, I mean, for goodness sakes, like, it hasn't been that long that, you know, slavery was abolished and we're still fighting all of these like fucked up notions of race, fucked up notions of like what people's value and worth are based on the color of their skin. Like, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I think it starts like, it's all like the same principle.
Yeah.
Erwin's phone, are you there? Like,
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. I see a box.
Yeah, I had to run to go get alcohol.
Yeah.
Very important.
Absolutely.
I guess we were talking about Erwin, like, and I think building off of the conversation of toxic male, you know, masculinity, like, I think that's an important topic to even continue, because it does build up our childhood. I think when you say like therapy is a lot of acknowledging our past trauma, like I couldn't even remember like, you know, boys being like whooped or beaten because you're crying. Like, stop crying. Like, you got to be tough. You got to be a man. And like a lot of those even qualities were like built into me as a Black woman. So it's like hard to say like it's just like a masculine quality. But like even having a daughter, I see myself like when she does cry, I'm like, you're fine, you're all right, that's fake. You know, like acknowledging a lot of that onto ourselves, which we still, even as women, we still can find that like emotional side or way to connect and heal that. But as men, it's different because it's embedded into you that that's just wrong.
Yeah, there's like two levels too. Like you're saying, there's one about being like being in a marginalized group as a Black man. There's the level of you can't cry, you have to be strong, you have to do all of that stuff. Shit, I forgot where I was going with that. Like,
you're getting somewhere.
I know, you got to get that liquor. Erwin.
Oh,
On a mission.
gosh.
It's funny that you say that, Jojo, about like even like with our daughters, like doing that, or sort of like I think you and I connect a lot in the sense of that we both have those shared experiences where we've had to be like really tough to get through stages in our lives, right? And so, funny story, my daughter was a toddler, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And we taught her basically that when she would fall, we'd be like, hey, you're great, you're fine. So my mom at the time like was taking care of her. I wasn't home. My mom ended up like falling and like hurting herself. And my daughter was cracking up at it because she was like, Grandma, like you fell, you're fine. And so it can backfire. Teaching your kids to be too strong sometimes. Yeah, when you said that, I just thought about it, you know, because you build that wall of like, you've got to be, you know, I tried.
I feel like when it comes to being a woman in our generation, raising the next generation, it's like, I even know you're a little girl, and like, not little, she's grown, but like, you know, they have a level of strength that surpasses us organically because they're already like around this social environment that's like, I'm not taking shit. Like Lindsay and I talk about this a lot, and it's like, you know, we have this fear of like, I'm not too old to get an ass whooping, but like, at what level do we stand up to our parents when they say inappropriate shit to us? And it's like, for my daughter, you know, I kind of give her the room to be organically herself. And she called me out on my shit, and I'm like, and instinctually, I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? But then I'd be like, okay, I might have been wrong in the way that, like, you know, I corrected you or I scolded you, or like she tells me that naturally because I've created this space for her to be herself. But sometimes when it like hits too far home, I get offended or I get triggered, or I want to like fall back to how I know is the proper, or not proper, but the way that I was taught, you know, like to stay in a child's place, you know, don't interrupt when grown folks are talking, don't have an opinion when you're in the room, you know, like things like that, which is like made me grow up to, even in my professional life, have to figure out a way to break that, because I can't be quiet. I shouldn't be quiet. And I've been quiet to the point where it has broken me in ways to where what I look at now of me expressing myself is extreme, when it should just be like, I'm just trying to have a seat at the table as an adult.
It's totally, yeah, Jojo and I had that conversation yesterday. My mom said something super out of pocket to me. And I knew in my head, I was just like, she could whoop my ass, but I'm just like, no, like, and I told her, I was like, Mom, I'm gonna give you a minute to think about what you said, and you can come back to me with like a different response, because that was not cool. And my mom like respected that, and she was like, you're right, like that wasn't cool. But Jojo, something you're saying like about a seat at the table, like we're taught from a young age, like you said, like you don't speak in a room full of adults, you don't have an opinion, you respect your elders. And this, like, I've grappled with this thought, like you respect your elders, but when you go into the office, it's almost like we associate our elders with the person who's in a position of power or like leadership. But I'm like, you're only like 2 years older than I am. You're like 3 years older than I am. Like, you're not my elder. So you like equate like respecting your elders to leadership, which of course you're going to respect leadership, but it's like, I am your age. Like I'm only a couple years older than you or younger than you. Like I should have a seat at the table. So it's like gaining that confidence to speak your mind and say what you want to say, because on the bright side for us, leadership can't whoop our ass. My mama still can.
I could whoop you.
What's going on here? Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding.
I understand.
Things are getting heated.
My mom's a little slow now, you know what I mean? A little slow.
JK. I'm saying okay.
Okay, and I would never.
But I would agree with you on that point, because you do feel you fall into these patterns of behavior where you fall in line, right? Like you're not.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe we need to, look at that and sort of change the conversation of how we're having that with our kids. Like, I'll be honest with you, my kid's very opinionated, right? Having this conversation. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Have you met his father? Have you met his mother? But so, Jojo, I'm with you. Like, you have those moments when you're like, the worst part literally as a parent is when you realize that you're fighting with yourself. When you like, you're like, OMG, like what happened? At what point did you become me? And then you really have to grapple with again, we come back to the therapy, mental health, right? Like, we should be getting the help to understand why we're reacting the way that we're reacting, why we're feeling this way, and what's a better way to respond to that in a constructive manner versus like reverting back to what we were taught, which was like fall in line,
I have a question for the two of you. Like, you guys both have little ones that you guys are trying to mold and guide and lead through all this. The question isn't necessarily geared towards what are you teaching them? Like, what have been your own personal thoughts, knowing like I have a small child and I'm going to have to explain to them what the hell is going on at some point in time? Like, what has been going through your thoughts as parents and parents who are also minorities?
First of all, they're molding. Oh no, I was say, first of all, they're molding and guiding me. Like, Noor is molding and guiding me. And as I've adopted my boyfriend's daughter, like, she's also molding, because they're extreme. Like, I have one that's very like opinionated, doesn't need me at all. Just like, she's like, yeah, Mom, you're here when I want to be hugged. So unless like I don't need you, I'm doing my own shit. And then I have another one that's super sensitive, hypersensitive, very anxiety ridden, and just like, she's a little like, she's me. Like, Nora is who I am today. And I was like, wow, we just skipped this whole like era of like having to grow there. She just popped out, like, that's me as an adult. And now I'm dealing with someone who's like a younger version of me. So it's kind of like seeing both sides, and I'm learning. Like, I can't teach, like, I can teach Nora, but I can teach Nora by how she's teaching me. From when it comes to like being a mom, all I wanted to do initially was be my mother. But now being a mother, I'm like, that was wrong. It was all wrong. And when I have these moments of like discipline and I see that side of my mom come out, I think of me when I was younger and how that felt. And Nora is so much expressive as in like the adult me. She was just like, you hurt my feelings, or that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to correct her because she's right for feeling that. And I wish that I could say that, like, I was sensitive. You know what I mean? I wish that I had that sensitive side that's like where I was afraid to feel soft. And then I also wish that I had that expressive side where I'm just like, yo, you fucked up. And so for me, it's like these kids are teaching me how to be more in tune with my own personal feelings. And so when it comes to guidance, all I can do is just push them in the direction, just like, hey, I support you in the way that you feel, because honestly, no one else is going to support them like me. You know what I mean? I can correct them, but the world is going to correct them throughout their experience into adulthood. They're always going to be corrected. All I can say is like, you're valid. You know, I can try to like shape it a little bit, but then the day it's just like, they're not going to receive a mother's love the way that I can give it to them. And that's just how I see parenthood. I have to protect their feelings.
I feel like my approach has always been like, no matter what age, there's always a way and an appropriate way to give it to them in a dose that they can handle. Because here's the thing, the worst, I think that the worst thing is just letting them find out on their own, because there's so much misinformation out there. And so shielding them from reality isn't the answer. And I was saying earlier, like, you know, I'm thankful for Sesame Street in the sense that like they're able to speak to them in a way that they're going to be, you know, accept it and take it in. But I'll be honest with you, like I hate to think of the moment of like, I haven't been able to have the conversation with my son of like, hey, people look at you differently because of the color of your skin or the shape of your hair. Or, I mean, and I think about it, you think about this, my son is a Russian Mexican that's also half Jewish, right? Like, so he's got curly hair. And you know, he's a mix, right? And so he's a mixed baby. He's gonna confront it at some point. And so my approach has always been to be honest with him, but in a way that he can understand, and assure him that no matter what, this is a safe space. You are loved. You know, you can explore and you can express what you want. Like my son, usually most days he's back in pre-K right now, which thank goodness, because Lord Jesus, Lord. Yes. Jojo knows. Lindsay, you know too. You've been on calls with me when he busts in the room, and Jojo has been there when he's like, "I want pizza now."
You know? I feel today. I feel that way all the time at 26.
I know. The day he busted in his little chonies and just ran in, screamed, and ran back out, that was the best.
It's the best for you, but oh my gosh, did you see the article this week that some woman got fired in San Diego from an insurance company because her kids were interrupting her work calls, and now she's suing them.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sue them.
How do you do that? There is no other place. Ugh, I feel like that's a whole other
can of worms.
But
I think
go
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Jojo and Wani, you have very good points as far as it is, and I'm not a parent, so I might be speaking out of turn, but I think there's something to the idea of assurance and validation, right? Letting them know that their emotions are completely okay. You know, if they're feeling sad or whatever, like really not being coy about reality and just being honest with them straight up. And I think there's an element of even normalizing things as far as this is just how things are, you know? So I think on one hand, if you're a parent, that's how we teach the young generation. But as far as even just socially, like how would we do that? And even in our industry, like I don't think in the creative industry, mental health gets talked about enough, you know, because we work super, super hard in this industry. So in what ways, even in that facet, can we like be better, right? And I don't know, like what are the solutions in that sense? Do any of you have like any thoughts there?
Sorry, what?
As far as like just in the industry of like, you know, creativity or design or whatever, advertising, because we work so hard, especially in the agency world, right? So in what ways can we alleviate this idea of like, it's like this like grind culture, like hustle culture, right? Where it's like people work super hard, and I don't know, like what are some not even just solutions, but just like ways we can be better and improve as a collective.
How about we start by not judging each other first and foremost, and keep spreading that message. Like, ain't none of your business. Who cares? Like, I mean, like, I can't tell you how many times like I showed up to the office early and left late because I felt like I had to put in more time. I felt like I had to, like, I have to be so buttoned up. And I'll look at some of my counterparts and no, they're coming in late, they're leaving early. But, you know, I mean, it's not like an easy thing, right? Because it's such a ingrained culture. But I think it starts, you know, step by step, and we need to start having those conversations, calling those things out, and you know, saying when it's not okay and calling it what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, Bonnie. Like, it's nobody's business why somebody came in late, why somebody's leaving early. Like, I think the immediate notion is to be like, oh, they're slacking off, they don't care, whatever. Like, you don't know somebody else's business, so it's like it's not your place to even ask. Like, don't like, oh, you always leaving early. Oh shit, we got 10 minutes. It's not your place to ask. And I think somebody said it in an email, I think it was Steve, but and I'm always going to say, like, the whole theme of this Brandbeats is to protect your mental health. Like, working from home, we don't have, like, working in an office, you get up, you go to the kitchen, you get your lunch, you sit there. Like, you go for a walk when you're in the office. Like, at home, you're just home. So it's easier for you to sit in front of a computer all day from sunup to sundown and not move. Like, now I'm in a place, I don't care. Like, if you see my little dot is not green, I'm probably on a walk. Like, I need to get away from my screen. I need to not continue to bring, and not even just me, all of us. Like, we can't continue to always bring our breakfast, lunch, and dinner to our computer at our dining room table. That's where I'm working. I'm working at my dining room table. I hate my dining room. I loved my dining room, but I hate my dining room now. I hate my living room because I eat, I work, and that's all I do here. So it's like things that we can do to just like protect ourselves during this time, especially because we all work so hard. Like, those mini breaks are necessary. Like, even if it's just, and there are like literally Chrome extensions that will like lock you out of your screen that says, get up for 10 minutes and you cannot come back. You cannot do anything on your computer for 10 minutes. And I love that because it forces you to get up. I hope you don't just sit there, but like, start looking at those Chrome extensions, start getting away. Do not eat at your computer. Just do something else to break up your day, because it's real easy to sit here from 8 to 6 or 8 to 8, 8 to 10. And suddenly you're like, fuck, I'm working all day.
To that point, I think it's what, as a collective, as a DE&I collective, is what we're trying to do is normalize diversity and understand that not everyone's experience is the same. You know, not everyone gets up at the same hour. Not everyone hustles at the same hour. People need different things, and that's part of equity too, at different times. And it's how do we come to the understanding of like what's considered lazy to what's considered like actually giving yourself that mental release, because like we advocate on here, mental health is key. And if I can't get up at 9 a.m. to join a meeting, I don't want to feel bad about it. You know what I mean? If I need extra time to collect my thoughts, if I need extra time to pray, meditate, whatever it takes to get you up and do your job, I think that, and it's not just in this like industry, any industry, just or any job, that people should understand that people don't just snap for no reason. You know what I mean? We all are put under constrictions in life that takes us to a certain point that we can only do it for so long and not be ourselves for so long until we break. So coming to the understanding that not everyone's experience is the same. Yes, we might slack off, but is it really slacking off, or are you not understanding this person's needs? I think all that plays into, you know, creating an environment that's productive, that's safe, especially in a creative environment, because going to a college for creativity, going to an art school, I actually lost my passion for art doing so, because it was these tight timelines and having to appease someone who I didn't feel connected to, having to do these projects that didn't serve me purpose. It ended up making me want to step away and taking another career path. So especially coming under the creative mindset, I guess, Eric, what you're saying is allowing that space, you know, allowing that time. And I get that we're in a society that everything needs to be delivered right now, but we just don't function like that. As much as we try, as hard as we push, you know what I mean? It's never authentically us, because now we're just doing things to appease, and it's going to take a toll on us. And to wrap it back to Kanye, I feel like a lot of it has to do with his own mental breakdown, because we push him, we push Britney Spears, we push all these other people who we celebrated at one point, and because they're no longer that person, we want to cancel them because they have their own mental break. And I think we go through that personally. It's just not televised, but I commend those who do stand up for themselves, because when they do stand up, I feel like they're speaking for the voices that are unheard.
Very well said.
Yeah. Like 5 minutes.
I was really about to say that. Time check.
Should we try and see if we have questions or comments in our last 5 minutes? This gives me anxiety, like this countdown.
Why?
It's like
you
glaring at me.
Lindsay, you can do this.
We only have 3 watching. One of those is me, and the only comment was, "Hey from Erwin," and you are also awesome. I have to jump. Thank you from Matthew Serwich, who was watching previously. So, no questions, unless you guys have any last minute thoughts or things to wrap it up.
Erwin, did you get your alcohol?
Well, I would agree that I don't want Kanye to be my president. I think that he has his wheelhouse, and he is. My husband and I have this conversation all the time that there's genius cannot be contained, right? And he is a genius in his own right. And I think historically, if you look back at so many of the people that we now consider geniuses, in their own time, they weren't, and they were probably ridiculed. And so, again, I don't think that, I think that Orwin made a great point earlier, like he would just blow it up. And I think back to the Chris Rock piece where he's always like, you know, there's some jobs you just can't not be good at. You can't afford to not be good at, right? Like, you can't, like airline pilots, they can't just kind of land a plane well, you know, they got to do it right. So that's the presidency, you know, like.
But also give them their flowers while they're here. And I think that's what we failed to do in the past. So me standing up for him is like giving him his flowers, because he is going to be someone that's going to go down in the history books.
Oh, for
whether
sure.
he serves us our purpose or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed. But again, in his space, I don't think he needs to run the country. Just like I don't think Trump should be running the country. But, you know.
Period.
Not as And my final word would be, I appreciate your guys' voices on this. Honestly, thank you for joining in on Brandbeats and even like running a lot of the dialogue and conversation. I think it's super powerful to actually like just hear other voices. Because like Brandbeats has historically been like me, Andrew, Eric's been on it, and a whole other rotation of dudes. A lot of dude energy.
Yeah.
It's great to actually have female energy on the podcast, and as a representation of what we have within our walls, and honestly just in general within the agency space.
Yeah. You can say it, Erwin. We harass you in the office. You might as well let people know that we exist.
Oh shoot, that is true.
Yeah, we do.
All right, so instead of being booted off, I feel like we should end it, and I got it.
Yeah.
That ends this episode of Brandbeats. Next time.
Bye, guys.
Ariel.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.